Hello, 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 and welcome to another live stream on High Altitude Investing. Today is the 2nd of January, 2026, baby. Happy New Year's. Hope you guys are doing good. Excited about today's live stream, excited about the stuff that we're going to talk about. We've got a lot of stuff bottoming out. Stuff is looking really, really good right now. I'm very, very hyped about the crypto markets. Very excited about 2026. 2026 is going to change everything, you guys, and it's going to be crazy fun and super profitable. So we're going to start off here with Theta on the 2-hour time frame and take a look at what's happening here with Theta. Now, I've been telling you guys that Theta is in the depression phase of its cycle for literally so many live streams and videos, like a bunch of them. That's still 100% true. We are in the depression phase of the Theta cycle, the point of maximum financial opportunity with the smallest amount of financial risk. But in the short term here on the 2-hour time frame, this was a huge liquidity grab. You can see the price of Theta fell all the way down to 20 cents right here, bounced back up to about 61 cents, and then started going back down in to that area of liquidity where it grabbed all that liquidity from. And this is a pretty common thing. You'll see this in markets. You'll see a really sharp decline followed by a sharp recovery, followed by kind of a bleed into that sharp decline and then a secondary bottom, and it will be a big bottom formation in the market where it actually bottoms out. Now, in that secondary decline, a lot of times you'll see a falling wedge pattern form, where the price gets smaller and smaller, or the selling pressure gets smaller and smaller inside of a wedge, and that creates this falling wedge pattern, right? And that's exactly what we see here with Theta. You can see this falling wedge after our second decline. We're breaking bullish out of this falling wedge on the 2-hour. We also see a double bottom here on Theta. Powerful, you guys. This is a classic bottoming structure in a market. Plus, anytime I've seen a major fear, uncertainty, and doubt event, also known as FUD, like somebody getting sued or China banning Bitcoin or whatever, like something like that, or COVID drop in March of 2020, right where it's a perfect time to buy, those are usually good signs. I know it sounds completely backwards, completely upside down of what the common narrative is for most people. But if you have a really, really strong buy signal coupled with, like in terms of the chart, right? Like we're in the depression phase, we're doing a big double bottom. This is all, in terms of the chart, Theta is a perfect buy right now. Coupled with some super negative news event, either what I've seen historically, like China banning Bitcoin, all of these different things, COVID hitting in March of 2020 and the price dropping, people think that it's going to be negative. But usually these really, really big FUD events, fear-driven events like we see with Theta, plus a perfect buying opportunity in terms of the chart, is actually a really, really good sign. And that's exactly what's happening with Theta right now. So I know a lot of you guys aren't Theta holders, but I wanted to start off with Theta because it looks super good right now, super bullish, super excited about it. Matt Osty says, Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you as well, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning into today's live stream. Arthur says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, and thank you for tuning in. Let's see. Sandor Hernandi says, similar to Theta, could we get a weekly chart for T-Fuel? Absolutely. Let's pull up T-Fuel. You guys, I'm a big Theta, T-Fuel, T-Drop supporter, believer. I genuinely believe in these projects, that they are doing big things, that they're changing the world literally right in front of our face, and that the opportunity for investing in these things is extremely high to make a bunch of money. I mean, I've got my Theta t-shirt on right now, you know. Link in the description if you want one of these Theta t-shirts if you're in the United States. The shipping is included in the price. Also, I've got these really dope Theta hats as well. these snapbacks. I've got different sizes of t-shirts, and the hats are snapback, so you can just get whatever size you need. This one is snapped too small for me. It's a little tight. I could adjust the size if I wanted to fit good. But they're really cool. So let's check out T-Drop here. T-Drop is a perfect example of what the depression phase of any cycle looks like. So here's euphoria up here again. These cycles are not that hard to identify. People overcomplicate this stuff. They get stuck in all these different things that they're looking at, which really don't add a lot of value to their analysis. But pure and simple, T-Fuel is a perfect example of a market cycle, of what it looks like when something gets overvalued and then extremely undervalued. That's what a market cycle is. It's something getting overvalued and then getting extremely undervalued. That's what it is, right? And here with T-Fuel, you can see in 2021, we had that overvaluation phase for this coin, where the price of T-Fuel went all the way up to 70 cents. People started to really get excited. But the entire crypto markets were in a bubble in 2021, especially altcoins. We're in a massive bubble in 2021. So it was overvalued. And we have this huge crash from our peak up here all the way down to a penny. We're worth 1 penny. This thing was worth almost 70 cents. So you can see the contrast between overvaluation at 67 cents up here and undervaluation at a single penny per T-Fuel. If this is an opportunity, I don't know what is. Has the fundamentals changed since our peak up here? No, they've only improved. Unless you're talking about FUD and news articles trying to make this project look bad, which is just totally FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I've seen it before. I know what it looks like. You guys, XRP had an SEC case, and it broke out to a new all-time high. So this kind of stuff happens. Crypto, in March of 2020, COVID hit. People thought crypto was going to go into a multi-year bear market. But look what happened in 2021 during a global pandemic. So these are just, you have to understand how FUD is designed to scare people. Something bad could be happening in the world, like, oh, war or pandemic, or this company is getting sued that I'm invested into. It doesn't always mean it's going to go down. Sometimes it means that it's still a really good opportunity and people are just freaking out and they're trying to attach their selling to something to justify their selling. Anyways, you guys get the point. T-Fuel is extremely undervalued down here. Now, if you want to simplify this process, grab the market cycle chart. Let's pull up a market cycle chart here. Market cycle. I've shown you guys this 100 times, but the fundamentals on, like I said, on T-Fuel, on Theta, on T-Drop, the fundamentals have only improved. So the price is down 90+% on these, but the fundamentals of the projects themselves have only improved. The whole Theta network. So you're talking about something that's down 90% plus the actual value of the chain has increased. So that's super important to be aware of. If you're an investor and you're trying to see this market accurately for what it actually is, then you have to understand that when something's down in terms of price, but improved in terms of actual value that they're providing, that the chain is creating, the fundamentals, that's a good thing. Now here's an example of the Wall Street cheat sheet. Like I said, this is euphoria. This is overvaluation up here at 67 cents. Then we come down, we bounce back up, and you can see this complacency right here. This is right here. Complacency. We come down, we bounce back up, complacency. People think it was going to just go back up again, but it wasn't. It was overvalued. So that's complacency. Then you get anxiety, denial, Right here, you can see how there's a bounce right here on denial. Look how there's a bounce right here on the chart. So as you start to learn how to identify these cycles, it becomes easier and easier to understand what's going on, right? Here is the anger phase right here. Here would be capitulation, this big cell right here. Here's anger, so now we're talking right here. Then it bounces back up and goes for one more low. This point right here, this is what most people are feeling right now with T-Fuel, with T-Drop, with Theta, with a lot of their favorite altcoins. This is where it's at in their cycle. It's either in depression or disbelief or hope. That's where most altcoins are at right now in terms of their cycle. So, what does this mean? Well, this means very simply that the price of T-Fuel is in the point of maximum financial opportunity, the point of maximum contraction in the cycle, with the lowest amount of financial risk. Most people are feeling, my retirement money is lost. How can I pay for all this stuff? I'm an idiot. That's what most people are feeling. But don't think like that. Don't think like most people. Think opposite of what most people are thinking. That's how you're going to make the most money in this market. When it comes to T-Fuel, this is a perfect example of what it looks like when something is in the depression phase, when it's ready to turn around and start a new cycle. Perfect opportunity to buy this thing at just over a penny per coin. It's a steal. The chart does not lie. It does not lie. So this is the same thing that happened to Ethereum, by the way. If you don't know, go study these cycles. Go take some time, study the cycles, see what's happened historically. This is what happened to Ethereum. Ethereum saw euphoria up here, comes down, it bounces up. Here's complacency, denial, panic, anger. Goes up again, goes for one more low. You can see here's depression of the Ethereum cycle. Now, if you take the replay tool, oops, I didn't mean to press that button. If we take the replay tool here and we go leave, we go over here, take our replay tool here, start new replay, and we look at what Ethereum looked like right here. Do you think people thought this was going to turn around? No, nobody did. I was trading. Okay, here's how long I've been in the crypto space. My little brother told me about Bitcoin in 2014. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2015. I watched Ethereum get added to the first major exchange it was ever added to ever on Poloniex. So I watched Ethereum drop down to 50 cents. So I've been watching this thing since the dinosaurs roamed the earth. Not seriously, but it feels like it sometimes. I watched Ethereum drop from $3 down to 50 cents back in 2015. Okay? So that gives you an idea of how long I've been around. So I know what these cycles do. I've seen the psychology of the masses over and over again. And in the case of Ethereum, when Ethereum fell down right here to $80 per coin, do you think people were excited to buy? No. COVID had just hit. This was the COVID drop right here. You think people were excited to buy? No, nobody wanted to buy this coin. Everybody thought it was dead. They thought there was no point in buying. But you know exactly where Ethereum was at on the market cycle? You already know. If you have your head on straight, you already know. Ethereum was in depression right here. Euphoria, anger, depression. Euphoria, anger, depression. And take a look at what happened after that point. Look what happened here. Let's see. Press play. Just watch the chart. People don't realize that this is what happens. These markets are like rubber bands. They get stretched in one direction, and then that point gets released because there's no more pressure to stretch it, and it bounces to the other side. Then they get stretched in the other direction, and that point gets released, and it bounces to the other side. So when these big bear markets happen, which is what happened here with Ethereum, look what can happen. People that sell the depression phase of these cycles have absolutely no understanding of the big picture cycles. They're just going off emotion. It doesn't feel like it's going to recover. There's too much FUD out there. It doesn't feel like it's possible. So they give up right before this happens. Look how much Ethereum grew off of the depression phase of the cycle. And you could say, oh, well, that was Ethereum. No. Okay, some people think Digibyte is just a stupid coin, right? Oh, nobody cares about Digibyte. Well, look what happened to Digibyte. Okay? Let's pull up Digibyte on the market cap chart, because otherwise we won't get all of the data that we need. So just give me just a second. Here we go. The same thing happened to Digibyte, all right? Here is March of 2020. Just as an example, we could go over so many coins here. We're not going to, but just to teach you what can happen. Okay. Here's Digibyte in the depression phase of its cycle. Doesn't that look completely dead and worthless to you? Don't you know other coins that look like this right now? You know? There's stuff out there just, oh my goodness. This thing is dead. This is never going to recover. It fell 90+% from its peak. I mean, look at Digibyte. You're talking about a 98% correction in value from the peak down. But look what happens when I press play. This is altcoins. This is crypto. This is what happens. And it's not just crypto. Crypto is more volatile than some markets are. If we go to the penny stock world, we can even find more volatility. And except maybe in meme coins. Meme coins are like, it's crazy volatile. But look what's about to happen to Digibyte, all right? Look at this thing. Look at the price of Digibyte from that point of depression of the cycle up to a new all-time high. And yeah, it saw a correction in a bear market after that, and it did another version of the same thing. It's doing the same thing all over again. Look at this. Where do you think it's at in its cycle right now? Definitely not euphoria. This is the depression phase. Right here is a copy-paste of the exact same human emotion that happened last time. Check this out. Let's pull up where's the tool that I'm looking for? There's so many tools here on TradingView. Aha, here it is. Okay. If we take this bear market on Digibyte here and we put it right here, look. It did the same thing all over again. Here's the previous bear market overlaid on top. It's the same exact thing. So where do you think we're at right now in terms of the Digibyte cycle? This is not euphoria. Euphoria happened in 2021. Yet some people that are total idiots are trying to call a top on the entire crypto market. But if you look at what these altcoins are, these things are ready to start their alt season. That's where they're at. So this right here is a perfect repeat of the same thing that happened the last time Digibyte saw a bear market. It is not in euphoria, it's in depression. These are just examples of altcoins. Take this information, apply it if you want to. Most people won't. Most people Most of you guys are going to, I'll just be honest with you, most of you guys are not going to make $1 million because most of you guys will not do what most people need to do to get it. Some of you will, but most of you will follow the crowds. So if you want to be in the small percentage of people that actually end up pulling out massive profits in these big bull markets that start, you have to be in the you have to earn it justly. It's not just going to be given to you because you think you're cool. And the only way to justly earn it is to put in what you need to do to get the result. And that's buying the dip. That's buying the despair phase or the depression phase of these cycles on these coins. That's what you got to do if you want to make big money in these coins. Miguel says Happy New Year. Well, thank you. Matt Osti says, can you take a look at Telcoin going into quarter one? Yeah, let's pull up Telcoin. Telcoin is another perfect example of what I'm talking about. No, it's not in the depression phase of its cycle. Telcoin hit the depression phase of its cycle in October of 2023. So this one's in disbelief. Earlier in the stream, I said most of these altcoins are either in disbelief, depression, or hope. Telcoin is in disbelief right now. People are in disbelief. They're starting to get a little bit of faith because of positive news events that they're like attaching to and stuff. But in terms of the cycle, here is euphoria in 2021 right here. Here is depression right here in 2023. And here is disbelief. So it's in the disbelief phase. It's right here. It's this thing about the cycle, what most people don't realize, this cycle repeats. So you can literally just take this thing and copy and paste it over and see this point where disbelief happens. See, check this out. We have our first cycle right here, a big pump in the market, followed by a big correction, coming out of depression into disbelief, and then it starts all over again, into hope, optimism, euphoria, that it goes like this again. This is what the cycles, this is the image I want you to have in your mind. Not just one chart, but one chart leading into another cycle, because that's how these cycles work. This is literally how the cycle works. It repeats itself. So Telcoin is in disbelief, moving into hope. And it will be an optimism, belief, and thrill and euphoria. And I believe that that's going to happen through the majority of 2026, but it could last until 2027 or even longer, depending on how big the institutional cycle for crypto really is. So let's pull up Ethereum here just as a perfect example of what these cycles look like. Ethereum. Okay. Ethereum on the right and Telcoin on the left. Okay. Here is a market cycle on Ethereum. Here's a market cycle on Telcoin. This is the disbelief phase on Ethereum right here. This is the disbelief phase on Telcoin. So if you want to know what's going to happen to Telcoin in 2026 for the first quarter, we should see the beginning of a big parabolic rally like this. See this big run right here that started on Ethereum? That's what we should start to see happening on Telcoin in 2026. Something like this. Right? And it will really start to heat up, especially as the price starts to break out through this local resistance at 1.2 cents. So this right here is our local resistance on Telcoin. Once we get above that level, it's over. You're going to see massive amounts of money coming into this very quickly. But in terms of where it's at in its cycle, think Ethereum right here in this red circle. That's where it's at in its cycle. Somewhere around here. So be ready for big things in Telcoin in 2026. Miguel says, let's hope you're right. Let's go altcoins. Yeah, it should be exciting, you guys. It's going to be bigger than what people think, bigger than what people believe, more profitable, especially now that everybody's bearish. That gives me even more hope than before. Just because what you don't do crypto since 2014, I guess technically 2015 is when I bought my first Bitcoin, but I was watching these charts since 2014. You don't do it for as long as I have to not see these patterns over and over in terms of human psychology. Anytime everybody's been bearish, I've learned to get excited. And anytime that everybody's trying to call a top on the market, I know we're just getting started. That's what's happening right now. Sandor Hernandez says, thank you. Well, thank you. Conscious Contact says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. Anthony says, hi, Dallin. Do you still hold your 140x call on MDT, 35 on IOIZ, etc.? Yes, 100%. Miguel says ADA Doge Litecoin. Okay, let's pull up ADA first. Good old Cardano. I think it's on Binance that we get the most data. Yeah, it is. ADA, or one of the places. There's always different places you can get more data or less. Look at this, you guys. Yesterday, 2 days ago, everybody was a bear in these markets. And you know what? Most people still are. This is the nature of the psychology of these cycles. People get fearful. They give up. That's human nature to do this. To get fearful. And let me tell you, it's a lie. It's a total lie. It's the nature of these charts and these coins. They drop in value, and it starts to just look so much like there's no other way other than it just going lower. It just looks like that, unless you understand technical analysis and human psychology. Then it doesn't. But for the most part, it does. Especially for people that have not just continually researched this stuff until they got a really, really good grasp on the nature of these markets and the nature of psychology in these markets. But until you do that, it's just every time the market crashes, you're just going to people that are smart don't sell. If you're smart, you didn't sell. You hold to your original convictions. But most people aren't smart enough to do that. Most people panic sell. That's why 90% of the market ends up losing money. That's a real statistic. Because they panic sell in the bottom of the market. So if you look right here, Cardano, here's euphoria, here is depression, here is disbelief. Here's a Bitcoin cycle, the very first Bitcoin cycle ever in 2011. Here's euphoria, here's depression, here is disbelief on Bitcoin. So the cycle, the chart doesn't lie. The analysis doesn't lie. It's telling us what's actually true. It's telling us what's truly happening in this market. And it's beautiful. It looks so good to see this. This is a perfect example of being able to buy the disbelief phase of a new cycle before the cycle goes crazy. Here's the Wall Street cheat sheet again. We're right here, and again, the chart restarts. So when you go from disbelief, that means think of starting over here and going for a new one over here. When you're in disbelief over here, it starts over again. So Cardano looks really good. This is a perfect example of a buying opportunity. People were crazy bearish because they were losing sight, losing touch with reality. Sometimes people ask me, hey, Dallin, how do you stay so calm? How do you stay so calm when the market looks like it's dying? Well, thankfully, I took a bunch of courses. I had really good mentors. I did this for a long time. I never gave up. I studied the cycles. And it taught me resilience. You don't get wrecked in this market. You don't make a bunch of money and then get wrecked and then make a bunch of money and then get wrecked and then start to make more consistent, steady money without learning something. More sustainable growth, which is what I've been experiencing lately. You don't do that without becoming extremely resilient to the markets. So let's pull up Hbar. Well, first let's pull up Amazon. Okay, I want to show you something here. Amazon. Because this is the fractal that I was showing with Hbar in my last live stream, because I'm a big Hbar fan, big believer in Hbar. But in terms of cycles, you guys, this is what's happened to crypto. So here's the internet bubble on Amazon on the right, and here's the crypto bubble in 2021 on the left. So if I was to tell you where Cardano is in terms of its cycle, just as an example of what happens during a bubble, then a recovery of that bubble, here's Amazon on the right, and here's Cardano on the left. Cardano is right here. Disbelief. This is the disbelief phase on Amazon, right here. And then it broke out and went to the moon and went crazy. This is the disbelief phase on Cardano, right here. Same point in the cycle. I mean, look how similar this is right here to this. Or how similar our topping structure was up here. Just sharp increase, sharp decline. This is what it looks like. This is what cycles look like. Thankfully, like I said, I bought this, especially this one specific really good course that I bought that doesn't even exist anymore. But it taught me all of this stuff. The guy he created his own coin and he stopped teaching trading and stuff. But back in the day, I took this course and I had really good mentors. And one of the things that it taught me was cycles. And this took so much fear out of the market and just helped me see things for what they are, for what's actually happening, to critically analyze these markets. Even in the midst of a 50% decline or a 70% decline, or in the big picture a 99% decline or 97% on some of these altcoins. How do you stay level-headed? You have to understand cycles to be able to stay level-headed in that kind of movement in the market. Or you're just not going to be able to do it if you don't. So that's my view on ADA. Let's pull up Dogecoin here, as requested in the chat by Miguel. Good old Doge. Doge is starting to recover off these lows as well. Look how sharp that increase is. Actually, before I switch over to Doge, because I wanted to talk about Hbar for a second, I just totally remembered that I was going to do that. Look at Hbar again, you guys. Look. Where do you think Hbar is at in its cycle right now? Disbelief phase of the cycle. Starting a new cycle, we're in disbelief right now on Hbar. So I just wanted to show you the similarities between this Amazon chart and Hbar over here on the left. There's so much similarity between what happened to the internet as a new technology with a big bubble and a big bubble pop, and then true adoption that came afterwards, and crypto is a new technology with a big bubble and a big bubble pop. Try to say that five times fast. and then true adoption coming for this new technology. So now let's pull up Dogecoin, okay, as requested in the chat. Dogecoin is the Bitcoin fractal, or if you really want to look at it zoomed out even more, it's either the first Bitcoin cycle or the second Bitcoin cycle. I don't care which one you look at, it's the same thing truly, because cycles are so similar in nature. They're not exactly the same. Like I said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. But these cycles are so similar. Let's go back to the first cycle ever on Bitcoin. And let's zoom out here and take a look at what's happening on Dogecoin currently. Okay? And we'll do a 1 month time frame for Doge. So similar. These cycles are so similar, you guys. This correction right here, yeah, Dogecoin did the same thing. Same correction on Doge right here is what happened right here on Bitcoin. So what I'm telling you is that in the big picture, these things are going to recover. They're going to see big bull markets. It's going to be very exciting, very euphoric, very profitable. Crypto is not going anywhere. Mass adoption, institutional money is already here. No matter what you're reading on the news, it's here. They've positioned themselves. They're building the infrastructure. They're planning on adoption. All of this stuff is true. So the biggest cycle in history is coming for these markets. Fundamentally, it really lies in your own hands whether you're going to take advantage of that opportunity or whether you're going to get deceived by FUD, deceived by your emotions, deceived by people on Twitter, deceived by YouTubers that don't know what they're talking about, or whether you're going to just see this market for what it is and take advantage of what's coming, because in the big picture, Dogecoin is set up for some big things. You think that Doge is going to get left behind? No, it's like one of the oldest cryptos ever with a massive community. The whales love Dogecoin. They love to pump it and dump it too, but they love Dogecoin. Let's pull up Litecoin here as requested by Miguel in the chat. By the way, thank you for the requests. It's always fun to do requests for you guys on your favorite coins. So let's pull up Litecoin here, and we'll actually use Bitstamp or Coinbase because the volume is better on Coinbase. It's more true because Bitfinex and Bitstamp are smaller exchanges than Coinbase. So anytime you can look at Coinbase or Binance, you're going to get a better representation of true volume in the market. So let's pull up here. Let's go to 1 month is a little bit gnarly. Let's go to the 15-day for Litecoin. I've shown this fractal 100 times, but it's still just as true as it is today as it was 6 months ago when I first started talking about this with Litecoin, which I've been bullish on Litecoin really since our bottom right here at $44. Check this out, you guys. Litecoin is doing the same big picture accumulation structure as Nvidia over here on the right. Same thing. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Even look right down to the volume. Look how much volume here in the first cycle and in the second cycle. You get a bit of a drop off in between, a bit of a drop off in between. Look at this. Volume in the first cycle, volume in the second cycle, drop off in between, drop off in between. So this is the same big picture accumulation happening on Litecoin that happened with Nvidia. I don't want you to think of this as two different industries, even though it totally is in ways. Actually, people use Nvidia graphics cards to mine crypto, so there's actually a lot of parallels. We wouldn't have crypto without cell phones and computers. So there is a lot of overlap in these industries. They're not as disconnected as, it's not as apple and oranges as you might think it is. Okay. But what I want you to realize here is what I want you to think of this is as new technologies being adopted by the public. NVIDIA, graphics cards, computers, the internet, that was a new technology. The internet bubble pop, the mass adoption that came after the internet bubble pop, the mass adoption of home computers that came after the internet bubble popped. That's what I want you to think of when you look at crypto and when you look at NVIDIA or Amazon or Apple or whatever chart you're looking at when you're comparing these charts together. Think mass adoption of a new technology. It's not apples and oranges, it's apples and apples. That's what we're comparing here. So it's no surprise that the similarities between these two charts is absolutely evident. It's evident. So, do I believe Litecoin will see a big bull market? Absolutely. I believe Litecoin will see a new bull market all the way up to a new all-time high. Big institutions are not going to walk away from this technology and leave it alone. But they will trick everybody into selling right before the big pump happens. Absolutely, they will. Because here's the thing, most people are very risk adverse. They don't want to lose. You know, that's why they don't go talk to the pretty girl or whatever, because they don't want to screw it up, just as one example. But most people are very risk adverse. So they don't grasp things tightly and stick and hold on to it and stay through the ups and the downs. So most people sell before the big pump happens because there's a real thing in markets called a shakeout that shakes weak hands out. And most people have weak hands, especially when it comes to money, because they don't want to lose money. But the people that make the most money are totally willing to lose everything. Steve Jobs has this quote for saying, "You have to risk it all." I don't know the exact quote, but he's basically said in one of his videos, I've watched tons of his videos, like videos of him in the early Apple days and stuff. He basically said you have to be willing to risk everything. He created one of the biggest companies in the entire world. I'm pretty sure that NVIDIA recently passed in market cap in the past couple of years or whatever, but Apple Computers was the biggest company in terms of market cap out of any other company in the entire world. So you got to risk everything, you guys. Whether you like Steve Jobs or not, whether you think he was rude or whatever, because that's controversial. I don't really care what you believe about him as a person. I personally believe he was a good guy. But the fact of the matter is he created the biggest company in the entire world. So taking risk totally works. Except for NVIDIA now. I believe they're the biggest on the U.S. stock exchange now. Anyways, you guys get the point. Litecoin, Dogecoin, ADA, all bullish. Bullish. You know? Sandor Hernandez says, Elon was sued as well, not just Mitch. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. But I do know that a lot of really big people get sued all the time. And most of the time it's stupid stuff like what we see with Mitch. Oh, he didn't hire enough women. He's sexually discriminating. You guys, that's the stupidest thing ever. That's so dumb. Do you really believe Mitch was just every day going to work and thinking, oh, how can I hire less women than men, you know, to really just to do well? Or how can I hire more women than men to really do well? It's so dumb. He was worried about his vision. He's got a good vision. Theta is dope. Theta is cool. It's an awesome project. He's got a big vision. That's what he's worried about. So some of the allegations on his lawsuit are just so stupid. I'll be honest with you. It's just the truth. But yeah, let's take a look at Tesla here. Tesla is breaking out of wave one here. And yeah, it's pulling back a little bit right now. bit of a rising wedge. You can see right here, there's a little bit of a rising wedge here. And we're breaking bearish out of that. So it could test support, no problem. It could test support. But this is wave one, so this thing could easily increase a lot more before it tops out. There's still good volume, so we haven't seen like with Apple now, where I wouldn't buy a lot of Apple stock if you're thinking big picture, because Apple is rising on no volume. See, there's a lot of volume here early on in the trend, back here, and now there's none. So there's not a lot of volume to sustain this growth. And whenever you have increasing price and decreasing volume, at some point it's going to top out. But go back over to Tesla. Tesla still has a lot of volume. If you look at the bottom of the chart there, there's still good, consistent volume here. So this could increase quite a bit before the true top of Tesla comes in to this market. What stage are we at with Dogecoin? We're in the disbelief phase of Dogecoin currently, ready to go into hope, thrill, the whole shebang, the whole parabolic run. That's very profitable. Can you take a look at Celestia? Yeah, and Monero too. I'll take a look at Monero too. Let's pull up Monero here. Bitfinex has the oldest chart data, but there isn't as much volume over here on Bitfinex. But this is a huge cup and handle. Look at this big cup and handle here, and look how big that handle is. This is very similar to what happened to silver. If we pull up the silver chart over here, if you look at silver in the big picture, very similar to Monero. Look at that. Monero, silver, pretty similar. Big cup and handle pattern. You know, big rounded bottom followed by another big rounded bottom. Because that's what a cup and handle really is just two rounded bottoms forming one right after the other, right? So yeah, Monero will probably go a lot higher before it tops out. Silver will probably go a lot higher before it tops out. It could correct a little bit back down to support here even more than what it did. But ultimately, this is a big uptrend on silver. We just barely broke above the old all-time high. This could go quite a bit here before it tops out with silver. And Monero, man, that looks good. Now, like I said, it could be a short-term top on silver. We could pull back for a healthy correction. We could even see some of that money flood into Bitcoin and altcoins out of the gold and silver markets if they see a short-term correction. But ultimately, they're going to uptrend in the big picture. Gold and silver will. And Monero looks really good. It hasn't broke above its old all-time high yet, but it should sooner rather than later. And if you're looking at it in other places than Bitfinex, you see the volume more clearly. Like, let's pull up Monero on, I don't know, Bybit probably has, Bybit has really good volume here. You can see a lot more trading volume here. So, yeah, it's starting a big uptrend. Monero it's pretty cool. I love privacy coins. Let's pull up Celestia. I like to say that word. It's really cool. Celestia. Okay, let's look at the chart here. Big ABC correction accumulation. Wave A, wave B, wave C. Right? Big ABC correction here on Celestia. A lot of volume down here. So this is where you see a reversal at the bottom of these big corrections. Nobody knows where the correction is going to stop when you first start looking at it, right? You could have been drawing an ABC correction here and it goes lower, but it looks like it's stopping now. Looks like we're starting to bottom out now, and we see the early signs of money flooding out of other coins and into the crypto markets, or out of Bitcoin, I mean, and into the altcoin markets is what we're starting to see, is that transition. So this is a falling wedge. We're at the bottom of an ABC correction. This is what new coins do. They pump they dump and then they bottom out and they start a big bull market afterwards. So let's see here. Trying to think of one of my favorite examples. ADA is a good example of this. If we go back to ADA, this is what ADA did, you guys. ADA saw a big ABC correction. It bottomed out and then saw a big bull market. So this is a pretty common thing, right? You're going to drop off a cliff and then turn around and go up. See a big bull market. So, which we already dropped off a cliff here with Celestia. So it should turn around for a bull market now. How long have I been streaming? 50 minutes. Man, I love doing these streams. Time just flies. It's so fun. Hey Dallin, I just joined. Not sure if you want to have, but, or not sure if you have, but can you please do some analysis on MARA? I assume you're talking about a Bitcoin mining company. I don't know if that's a coin, MARA. Okay, yeah, this is definitely a Bitcoin mining company. So yeah, this is looking good with all the volume that we've seen. This is what I'm talking about with institutional adoption with crypto. You don't get these big, massive increases in volume at the bottom of major trends unless somebody's super interested. And that's exactly what we see here with this coin. A lot of volume down here, or this stock. And we could easily see a double bottom. Here you can see, here's our first low here, second low starting to form. This can easily be a big double bottom, in which case this would be wave 1 here, wave 2, ready for wave 3, 4, and 5. And this is a big ABC correction as well. A, B, and C. So wave 1, 2 should be going for wave 3 here pretty soon, and it should be nice and vertical. Wave 3 is always going to be more vertical than wave 1. So I like this setup a lot. Dallin, you're a great mentor. I greatly appreciate you. Well, thank you, Rapids. I appreciate you too. Les says, morning mate from Australia, Velo looking bloody good. Oh, man. I agree, man. I agree. It's looking bloody good. Let's pull this thing up here. See? We're starting to bottom out. In my video that I made about this just the other day, I talked about how we could easily bottom out because of this ABC correction here. Wave A, wave B, and wave C. Plus the fact that if we turn this thing onto the logarithmic chart, this is a leading diagonal Elliot wave. So this is a rising wedge right here, like this. Then we have 5 waves up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by an ABC correction. So this is wave 1 and wave 2. And if we pull up a leading diagonal here, leading diagonal Elliott wave. Sometimes it's hard to find the example on Google. Here it is. This is the one I like to use. Let's pull this up. This is a leading diagonal. So this is wave 1 and wave 2. You can see 5 waves up inside of a rising wedge pattern, which is this green line here and this green line here. So that's a rising wedge. Wave 1 and wave 2. That's a leading diagonal Elliott wave right here. So we should go for a big wave 3. And it looks like we're bottoming at the bottom of wave 2 right now. So it does look bloody good. I agree. This looks really nice. First Man 4430 says, should we expect XRP to do something this year? Yes. Yes, we should. XRP, people got super excited last year for XRP. They gave up on it at the bottom of this recent correction because people give up on stuff pretty easy for some reason. They don't have enough. My dad used to always say, don't you have more stick to it than that, Anderson? You know, we'd be like working on a project and I'd be like ready to give up and he'd be like, "Don't you have more stick to it than that, Anderson?" Like, "Okay, Dad, yes I do." So you got to have a little more stick to it. Don't give up on stuff, you know? Um but look at this. This is looking beautiful here with XRP. Here's our running flat. So we have wave 1 right here, wave 2, and in between wave 1 and wave 2 we did a running flat ABC. If we zoom in on the chart, you can see a falling wedge bullish breakout here. So we have this falling wedge I was talking about in my last live stream. We just got a bullish breakout of this falling wedge. Very, very good sign here for XRP to see that. But what we should be doing here, since this is wave 1 right here, wave 1 and wave 2, we should be breaking out for wave 3 now. So 2026 should be big for XRP. I know a lot of people thought 2025 would be the year for it. We saw some bullishness, but it ended up basically right back where it started. But it's set up for something big in 2026. This year is going to be big for XRP. Mango Elvis 1032 says Elon has mentioned using edge nodes for his robots and robot axis. Theta has edge cloud. What are the chances they hook up? It's possible. It's 100% possible. Theta's doing some big things. It's a very big, in terms of their vision, they're doing big things. You know, they've got a big vision. They've got a lot of stuff they're doing right. I have nothing but good things to say about Theta Network. And I believe that there will be some really big partnerships in the future. We've already started to see that, even though some people say they're fake. Don't listen to that stuff. It's just stupid. Theta has some really big potential for some really big things in the future. Robert, we already did T-Fuel at the start of this stream. So if you just tuned in, go rewatch this live stream. Check out the beginning. I do run into T-Fuel analysis. And we already did Theta as well. Music TV Brother Boldly Official says, "Hey bro, can you review Toshi coin? Please, thank you." Sure. Pull up good old Toshi here. So this is what I'm expecting for Toshi. Same thing I've been looking at for this coin for a while. We pull back for a double bottom, but this is a big accumulation. So a lot of times with markets, let's see here. What's the best way to explain this? So this is what can happen a lot of times with markets. You'll drop off when they first get added to exchange. Well, actually, this is what most of the time happens. You pump right when things get added. There's a lot of hype, but it's overvalued. And normally, when I say added, I mean added to major exchanges. And normally, it's a new coin, so people are excited, and a lot of times people will release a bunch of coins in bull markets because there's a lot of hype. So you'll get this big pump, then you'll get a big bear market like this. And then the coin will go like this, and it'll start to bottom out like this, and then it'll go whoop and come right back down for a double bottom, and then it really bottoms and goes up like that. So this is a pretty typical kind of thing for crypto to do, which is exactly what we see here for Toshi. Big rally here, big pullback, starting to bottom out, coming back for a double bottom. You can see the similarities. So I do expect a big reversal and a big bullish market for this coin. It looks good down here. We see the bottom of an ABC correction. By the way, this is the same thing that the NASDAQ did. So this isn't just a crypto thing. If you pull up the NASDAQ, right? IXIC. Let's pull up the NASDAQ. This is what the NASDAQ did too. The NASDAQ did a big bull market during the internet bubble, followed by a big pop, followed by a recovery, and a big double bottom. So this is not new to crypto. This is not something that only crypto does. Same type of patterns appear. I mean, look at Quant. Let's pull up Quant here. If you look at Quant is doing the exact same thing that the NASDAQ did. Here's the NASDAQ on the right. Here's Quant over here on the left. Let's switch to the 15-day. It's the same thing, right? Big bull market right here on the NASDAQ, followed by a big correction. Look at this double bottom right here. Big boom, boom. Same thing that the NASDAQ did. This is what I mean. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So quant is a really good setup right now to be buying down here before we see a big recovery on this coin. Just as an example of this type of structure, because Toshi's really doing the same thing. Edward says, "Hi Dallin, appreciate all you do. Can you chart Digibyte?" Sure, we actually did at the beginning of the stream, but it was more just showing an example of what coins can do. So I'll actually do like a dedicated analysis on Digibyte for you right now as well. So the start of the stream, what I did was see this correction right here on Digibyte right here. This bear market that happened from our peak over here down to our bottom right here. That's the same correction that Digibyte just did. So do you see this green thing in the background right here? I took that from right here. I copied that from the chart right here with the bars tool pattern. It's right here on the left. It's called the bars tool pattern, or the bars pattern. I copied that bear market and I took it and I said, hey, doesn't this look something like we've already seen before? So this is what I mean. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Digibyte is in the depression phase of its cycle right now, just like it was in March of 2020. Same point of the cycle. And I can tell you that because I took the old cycle and I grabbed it and I layered it on top of what's currently happening, and look at how similar the psychology is. It's doing the same thing that it did in the last bear market. It's just bigger, but it's the same thing. Do you see that? Same thing. So Digibyte is ready for a big bull market. It's in the depression phase, the point of maximum financial opportunity. And if you take a look at this thing on Binance, for example, let's pull up Digibyte on Binance. Look at the volume down here. Somebody's interested in this thing. Somebody's ready for it to pump. Somebody's picking it up like crazy. At the bottom of this big ABC correction in the depression phase. So a big reversal here, 100% expected. Like I said, mass adoption phase for crypto. Big bull market is coming for these coins. Seriously, that's what's coming for these coins. Let's pull up Litecoin. Check this out, okay? These markets are acting exactly like how they did before 2017. Specifically the altcoin markets. It's 2017. It's not yet, but it will be 2017 all over again. Right now it's 2016 all over again. Look, here's Litecoin on the right. Here's Digibyte on the left. This is what altcoin accumulations look like, you guys. This is what they look like. Imagine buying Litecoin right here at like $4, which is something I had the opportunity to do actually, before it went all the way up to 300. That's what it's like to buy Digibyte right now. That's what it's doing. History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Check this out. Let's pull up XRP. I want to show you the XRP BTC chart, because this is just cool to see what I'm talking about here. XRP BTC. Is it on Bitfinex? No, it's XRP BTC. There we go. Poloniex has the most data. So if you look at XRP right now, it just looks like it's just jumped on versus Bitcoin. It looks like this random chart that you can't really make much sense of, right? Like, what's happening here? But actually what it's doing is what it previously did. Here's an ABC correction right here. And here's a big ABC correction. So this is just a bigger version of what it's historically done. This is what a fractal is. If you don't know what a fractal is, do a little bit of research on what fractals are. If you go to images here, a fractal is a repeating pattern that's the same on all different sizes, and the microcosm and the macrocosm. So both the small version and the big version. It's like how if you look at an atom, it looks very similar to if you're looking at galaxies, right? Like the same patterns are appearing throughout all of life on all different sizes. And you can see that that's true. When you get into this stuff and you start looking at it, seashells have the same geometry as even weather patterns do. If you look at a weather pattern from top down, you can see here's a seashell on the right, here's a weather pattern on the left. Fibonacci spiral. It's a fractal of the mathematics of the entire universe, which the entire universe is based on math. That's why Galileo said mathematics is a language in which God has written the universe. That's what Galileo said. And it's true. Mathematics is at the heart of the entire universe. So fractal geometry is something that we see everywhere. You know, if you're looking for it, you'll see it. Right down to tree branches, they branch in Fibonacci numbers. So that's what a fractal is. It's a repeating pattern. I mean, look at this. The little circle is the same as the big circle. So this is a fractal, right? And if we look at XRP, this right here, this little thing right here, is a fractal of this. Same pattern, different size. Just like this, same pattern, different sizes. That's what we see here with this market, with XRP, just teaching you about fractals. So when I compare Digibyte to Litecoin, that's a fractal. Elliot wave principle that I'm always talking about in these live streams and in my videos and stuff. If you look at it, Elliot wave principle is, let's see if it's on the Wikipedia page. See, Elliot wave principle explains that market movements from reoccurring patterns of 5-wave and 3-wave structures, which repeat across various time frames and exhibit fractal-like behavior. So even Elliot wave is a fractal that's appearing in the market. There's self-similar fractal geometry, which continues to unfold. So this is something that's mathematical in nature, to see these fractals in these markets. So that's why we see these same patterns, why I'm always comparing stuff together. Because you see the same fractal geometry in markets, whether you're learning about Elliott wave principle, which is a fractal, whether you're learning about market cycles, which is a fractal, whether you're just comparing ABC corrections, which is a fractal that's part of Elliott waves, or whether you're doing like what we did with Digibyte earlier, where we go over to the Digibyte chart right here, and we take a fractal of our first correction and overlay it on top of our current correction, and it's the same thing, it's just bigger. This crash right here is the same as what happened right here. See that? I just copied this bear market, dragged it over, and pulled it right here. It's a fractal of the same thing. It's just a bigger version. So we're in the depression phase of Digibyte right now. Just to teach you guys about the nature of markets and the way the world works. Matias Gomez, I already did Velo, so go back and rewatch the stream. I talked about Velo already. Very bullish looking. Music TV Brother Boldly Official says, thanks, bro. Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for tuning in, man. Okay, I'm going to do one more, but it's already an hour and 10 minutes in, so I'm going to call it a live stream. Thanks for charting Digibyte. Do you think the trigger for alts will be a retracement for BTC or a new all-time high? You know, I'm glad you brought that up. That historically, Altseason is very bullish for Bitcoin. I know that doesn't sound possible, But alt season has always been bullish for Bitcoin. So during this alt season in 2017, Bitcoin went from being worth $1,000 per coin to 20,000. It's just that altcoins were in such a crazy bull market because everybody was thinking risk on, that the altcoin markets did so much more percentage that Bitcoin dominance was going down, even though Bitcoin was skyrocketing to 20,000 per coin. Same with right here. Bitcoin went from like 3,000 up to 69,000 per coin. But altcoins went even more, even faster. And so Bitcoin dominance went down. But it was a bull market on all of crypto during both of these periods of time. So when Bitcoin dominance is falling off a cliff, that means people are thinking in terms of risk on. The big whales aren't selling all of their Bitcoin during that period. They're still holding, but they've moved a good chunk of it into altcoins they really believe in. And that's why Bitcoin dominance drops off a cliff and altcoins go up. And if you look at this chart, it looks so bearish right now. The rising wedge pattern, we just broke bearish out of a rising wedge on Bitcoin dominance. Right here, this thing is ready to fall off a cliff, Bitcoin dominance. So we should see a huge increase in altcoins and Bitcoin, all of it. And if you look at this thing too from a time cycle perspective, time cycles, this thing is ready to curl down. It's a perfect time in terms of time cycles for this to curl down. So things are looking good for crypto, you guys. Okay, I'm going to do that last coin I promised, and then I'll call it a day. What do you think about Pepe? You know what? I'm glad you brought up Pepe. Pepe's been one of my favorite ones to swing trade because you get a bigger percentage gain than if you're holding Bitcoin, for example, on swing trading, or if you're holding Ethereum. It's basically like a trading Ethereum leveraged. That's what Pepe is. And something I've been telling people that Pepe was doing is that it's in the first sell-off of a bigger cycle. So this quote-unquote bear market that everybody thinks is going to last forever is really just an ABC correction right here. And this is the first sell-off in a new cycle. So if you learn about markets and what happens in markets, this is pretty common practice for a market to see a big sell-off before it rallies. For example, here's our first sell-off on Litecoin, okay? Litecoin had a first sell-off right here before it really rallied. It had started to increase in value. It fell off a cliff, and then it rallied like crazy. So that's a first sell-off on Litecoin. If we go to the market cycle chart here, not the Wall Street cheat sheet, but just a market cycle chart, and we pull up, let's see here, this one right here, copy, paste, and we'll just isolate the Pepe chart. The first sell-off is that period where the market has started to increase in value. You started to see a bull market, but then you crash. You fall off a cliff usually. And then the market recovers and goes for a big run. One of my favorite examples of a first sell-off pattern is Stellar Lumens in 2017. So let's pull up XLM here. Let's go to XLM. It's probably not on, oh yeah, it is on Coinbase. Here's a first sell-off pattern on XLM, okay? A big pump right here, a big sell-off, the first sell-off in a big bull market, and then look how parabolic that run that came afterwards, right? So in the big picture, Pepe set up for some big things. This is only an early sign, and yeah, it could correct a little bit in the short term or whatever. But if you're accumulating this thing in the big picture, zoomed out on the 15-day time frame, and you understand cycles of what's happening, then you know what's going to come for this coin is going to be very bullish, very exciting. Even from an Elliot wave perspective, wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, followed by an ABC correction down, A, B, and C. Okay, this is actually what Stellar Lumens did. wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, followed by an A, B, and C correction. Those ABC corrections can look a little bit different, but this right here was capitulation, or the technically the depression phase or the despair phase of the cycle, and that's what this was right here as well. So that's the best opportunity to buy, is in that point in the cycle. It's where it falls below the trend line that everybody thinks is going to hold. You see that? Falls below the trend line. That's despair, that's depression, that's the point of maximum financial opportunity. So I see some really, really big things coming for Pepe in the big picture. Cool. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos, future live streams. 2026 is going to be amazing. I know it sounds cliche to hear that. You're probably watching all these YouTube channels about other things. Crypto probably doesn't have a lot of positive stuff, people talking positive about crypto, and people all over YouTube are probably saying, oh, 2026 is going to be our year. But I'm dead serious. 2026 is going to be our year, you guys. It's going to be crazy. So bullish, so profitable. It's going to change our lives. So I'm super hyped about it. Here's to a really good 2026. Looking forward to everything in the future for our profits. If you guys want to join Lifetime VIP Signals, link in the description box below. If you want one of these super cool Theta hats, link in the description box below. Shipping is included in the price. It's a snapback, so it will fit anybody. Or one of these cool Theta t-shirts. I got different sizes over here. They're all brand new, brand spanking new. They're going fast, especially these hats are selling like crazy. But the shirts have been selling as well, so check that out if you guys are a big Theta fan. Link in the description box below. And if you don't live in the United States, reach out to me over email. And if you pay for shipping, I'll still send it to you. But if you live in the United States, the shipping is included in the price for these Theta t-shirts and hats. Anyways, I love you guys. I'll see you guys in future videos, future live streams. Go rewatch this if you missed a bunch of stuff. There's some really good stuff in this stream. Should be super helpful for this coming year. Big things are coming. Don't give up. Double down, if anything. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. As always, stay profitable out there.